What's up, everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And the last 24 hours has been quite interesting, really for all of the big three. PlayStation did just finally confirm that much rumored May showcase with some juicy new details. It sounds like they do plan to make a statement here, and it sounds like it could be just a little more than exciting. So we're going to dive into the latest on all that today and what could possibly show up there, because it could be a lot, and I am all for it. Then also, and this one is wild, Microsoft's CEO Satya Nadella was asked about the possibility of pulling Activision out of the UK if the CMA doesn't approve the buyout, and his answer was quite surprising. There's actually a lot happening with the UK right now, so we're going to get into all of that as well. As always, though, do hit those buttons below, like, subscribe, and ring that bell for your daily game news dose. But with that said, let's just go and jump right into it, starting off with Nintendo. Like I said, it's been an interesting 24 hours for all of the big three, but with Nintendo, we might as well just go ahead and say their entire generation, because the Switch has been nothing short of spectacular. They have been killing it since day numero uno with Zelda Breath of the Wild launching alongside the Switch. I mean, what a way to start a new console generation. That has to be among the best launch console and launch game combo of all time, and they've been pretty much smooth selling ever since Breath of the Wild. It went on to be the best-selling Zelda game of all time by a long shot, nearing 30 million units sold, and now they can also cap off the Switch's life cycle with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, because check this out. Nintendo just confirmed that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has already sold 10 million units in 3 single days, making it the fastest-selling Zelda game ever made. Even better here, though, is that it ties the fastest-selling exclusive of all time, sharing that spot with last year's Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So what a start for Tears of the Kingdom here. Now, I will be interested to see if Tears of the Kingdom can maybe surpass Breath of the Wild's lifetime numbers eventually, because that will be tough. Even though I think Tears of the Kingdom is a far better game, it's not even close in my opinion. It doesn't really have the same privilege of being a part of the Switch's life cycle from day one. Instead, it's coming in at the tail end of the generation. But if the Switch successor is backwards compatible, cross my fingers that it will be, and hey, if Nintendo finds a way to improve Tears of the Kingdom's performance even more so for the next console, then who knows? This game could ultimately be an essential purchase for any Nintendo consumer for years to come, if all that turns out to be the case. Either way, though, I mean, big congrats to Nintendo. This is fully deserved, because Tears of the Kingdom, truthfully, it met its extremely lofty expectations. Now, speaking of expectations, let's just go and talk about the next Mortal Kombat game. I think by this point, we all kind of know that there's an announcement incoming. With their most recent tease, the clock kind of skipping the number 12 and just going straight to 1, it does appear that it could be some sort of reboot. But that's kind of the thing here, because we won't have to wait too long to find out for ourselves. They did post another teaser today, which once again shows that clock that skipped the number 12. And then shortly after, they ended the video with text that reads, "It is time, May 18th, 6 a.m. Pacific time." So, there you go. It does appear the next Mortal Kombat will be revealed tomorrow. If anything else, I imagine this will start a beefier marketing campaign for this next Mortal Kombat game. Maybe a trailer confirming its setting and all that. And then throughout the summer, with all of those different showcases, they'll maybe start to ramp up some different gameplay segments. One way or the other, though, if you are a fan of Mortal Kombat, go ahead and set your alarm for tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pacific time. All right, so let's go talk about this Xbox situation, though, because this caught a lot of people off guard. Of course, the CMA, they recently shocked the world by blocking the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger. It's actually a baffling decision the more you look into it. There's some very questionable things going on there, and the CMA, they have since received a lot of scrutiny from not only the media, but even with their own government. More on that here in just a second. But first, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella was asked a question in an interview, and let's just take a look at what happened here. So he was asked, could you ever see an age where you sell the product in the United States if it was approved, sell the product in Europe, but not sell it in the UK if they did not approve it? In which he responded with a sly smirk, quote unquote, let's wait for it all to play out. Now, we literally just talked about this yesterday with Sega's response regarding $70 games. Sometimes when you see these type of comments from companies, it's oftentimes not about what they said, but instead about what they didn't say. And what he didn't do here is stop the speculation. Satya Nadella instead, he seemingly welcomed the speculation that they'll pull Activision products from the UK if the CMA doesn't approve the buyout. Now, previously, I wasn't entirely sure if they could actually do that, but based on the response here, they are at the very least considering it as a possibility, especially if the CMA is the only regulators to decline the buyout. Now, at the same time here, to be fair, this could also be another way for Microsoft to apply pressure on the CMA and then also the UK government without actually confirming anything. A strategical threat without the words actually spoken. And that is important because it could technically be a bluff where Microsoft's trying to scare the CMA and the UK and nothing more. Another important part about this, though, is that the UK is a big market for Xbox. Now, let's just go and theoretically say that Microsoft does pull Activision products from the UK. This also begs the question on if Xbox would be able to remain in the UK as well. There's a lot of unknowns about this situation because we haven't seen this before, but what we do know is that the UK is a big market for both Xbox and Activision alike. Xbox has already sold 2 million consoles this generation, making it an even faster selling console in that region than the Nintendo Switch. So this would put a large dent on Xbox and also Activision, which could play an effect on Activision's investors if they need to renegotiate their deal. The only thing about that, though, and I keep seeing this online, so a lot of people believe that Microsoft just would never do that, but truthfully, I think that if this were to happen, the CMA would cave. And I think that's kind of what Microsoft is maybe banking on here. If Microsoft were to pull Activision products, Xbox, or whatever, that could ultimately help reverse the CMA decision. Now, we'll kind of see if all of that happens, but the CMA is already under a lot of scrutiny as is. Consumers, they're not happy with the CMA's decision. Businesses, they're upset. And more importantly, their own government does not seem thrilled by their decision. Yesterday, the CMA was asked some very tough questions by their very own government officials as they seemed quite concerned about the CMA's decision and how all this reflects on the UK. See, the thing is that the UK wants to be viewed as an innovative tech sector post-Brexit, but instead they're now ironically viewed as quote-unquote closed for business. The UK, they're not happy about that. They do not want to be viewed in that light across the world, especially when compared to Europe, which did approve the buyout. In their questioning, they also seemingly suggested that the CMA colluded with the FTC to do their bidding because the FTC has rules in place to where they can't legally block it in the same way. So the UK here alluded that the FTC might be using the CMA to do what they themselves can't, and the CMA's response was quite evasive. It did not instill a lot of confidence. Then on top of that, another powerful member of the UK government today said this: one of the reasons that companies like Microsoft invest in the UK is because we have independent regulators. I would not want to undermine that at all. But, yeah, there's that fancy but there, because he continues on to say, I do think it's important all regulators understand their wider responsibilities for economic growth. That comes off as a warning to the CMA. And this also seemingly pairs with what the Prime Minister said just last week, that the CMA could need quote-unquote strategic steering. So there's just so much happening here with this buyout right now, and the UK is seemingly a mess thanks to the CMA's decision. Now, will this ultimately change the CMA's decision, though? Honestly, it's kind of hard to definitively say. I don't think that any of us 100% knows what will happen, but if the FTC's decision gets thrown out in the United States, as I think many suspect will happen, well, the CMA, they're really not going to want to be on an island all on their own here, especially after what Satya Nadella kind of threw out there. On to some more exciting game news, though, and I am pumped about this. Let's talk about PlayStation. We've been hearing about this rumored May showcase for months end. The way this showcase has been described up to this point is that it's Sony's event to set up the second phase of the PlayStation 5's lifecycle. It is supposed to be massive by all considerations. These are just rumors, though. I always like to preface rumors to kind of keep expectations in check, but it's always great when those hyped up rumors actually come to fruition. And at the bare minimum here, that May showcase does actually in fact exist. Now, is it as big as some of those rumors have maybe suggested? Well, that still remains to be seen, but there was a quote going around today that they want to make some noise. They want to make a statement. If anything else, some of its new details does possibly hint that it could do just that. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Sony did confirm this showcase will take place on May 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, just 7 days from now. Go ahead and mark your countdown. This also ultimately will be the showcase to kind of kick off the summer with, and it sounds like it could start with an absolute bang, and here's the reason why. I think the first thing that everybody needs to kind of key in on here is that this is a PlayStation showcase and not a PlayStation State of Play. There is a huge difference between the two. It does seem like their official branded PlayStation showcases are much bigger than State of Play, so you can already be excited about that alone. This is not going to be some kind of small State of Play with smaller scale games. In fact, they've already confirmed it will be over an hour long, so there's going to be a lot of announcements made here. Better yet, this includes quote-unquote top studios around the world, including third-party and PlayStation VR 2 reveals, but most importantly, they noted that fans will see several creations from their internal PlayStation studios. Now, we've talked about this before, but if you look at PlayStation's lineup right now, and all the studios that they have under their belt, there's a lot of mystery. We don't know what a lot of these studios are currently working on. Now, some of these games, they could still be a few years away. Do keep that in mind. But the rumor is this showcase could set up the second phase of the PlayStation 5. So I think with that in mind, just a few examples here. We don't know what Naughty Dog's working on outside of their Factions multiplayer. I do imagine that will finally be revealed here. Hopefully. But who knows? Maybe they also talk about their full-fledged single-player game. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll launch it this year, but we could maybe get an early look or some kind of teaser. Then you have Sucker Punch. This is another highly lauded studio that could maybe give a small update. Ghost of Tsushima released back in 2020, so it's been 3 years since their last game. So maybe it's time for a small teaser for their highly rumored sequel, because it does sound like Ghost of Tsushima 2 is in development based on different job listings that we've seen. There's also that rumored Uncharted game that we keep hearing about. Now, you all know I love the Uncharted series, so I am personally hoping this is true. But this is supposedly being developed by a secret PlayStation studio in partnership with Naughty Dog. If that game does actually exist, well, here's the place that they could reveal it, and that would be a massive announcement. Then there's also Bluepoint, and I think that this is another studio to kind of keep an eye on. Demon's Souls was a launch title for the PlayStation 5, but they have kind of been coy on social media. At times, it does seem like they're maybe teasing a new announcement. There's also Team Asobi, the studio behind Astro's Playroom. I do firmly believe that's one of the best 3D platformers of all time. Seriously, every PlayStation 5 owner should play that game. I mean, it comes with a console for free, and it does a great job at showcasing the DualSense controller, so do go check that game out. But considering Asobi's history, they could reveal a VR2 title or something like that. I mean, I'd prefer them stick with regular games, but knowing them, they like to showcase new hardware, and, well, VR2 is here, so put two and two together and maybe. But that's kind of the thing. These are just some of the studios that we don't know what they're currently working on. Now, will all of these studios actually show up at this showcase? Probably not. But my point is that there's a lot of potential here for new first-party announcements. Then on top of that, of course, there's the already confirmed games that will likely get updates here, such as Spider-Man 2. That will absolutely be here without a doubt, as it is a huge 2023 game, and we still need gameplay. So fans are going to be over the moon seeing its new gameplay, specifically built with the PlayStation 5 in mind. So that's already worth tuning in for. Death Stranding 2 is another game that needs an update. This game got revealed back at the Game Awards, but, you know, in typical Hideo Kojima fashion, there was a lot of mystique to this trailer. Maybe a full gameplay reveal is in store. My only thing about that, though, is that Kojima, he does seem to like to go to those Jeff Keighley showcases. They're pretty good friends, you know. So, I mean, Who really knows when it comes to them? We also need an update for Wolverine. I don't know if they'll necessarily market that one just yet because Spider-Man 2 is still looming. It is coming from the same studio and everything. So they might wait for Spider-Man 2 to release first, but even still, Wolverine is in development, so you can't rule that out. And then Sony also has partnerships with games like Final Fantasy XVI, Silent Hill 2 Remake. There's rumors about a new Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, maybe even a new Castlevania, and there's even a new Horizon MMO in development. So yeah, if anything else, this showcase has some major potential with some huge exclusive announcements. A real must-watch for any PlayStation fan, or for that matter, I think just for fans of games in general. There will be some huge announcements made here. I personally cannot wait for this showcase, but of course, I will cover it as we hear more. For the time being, though, let me hear your hopes in the comments below. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, has the increase to $70 games stopped you from buying any game that you previously would have bought? And as you can see here, it has actually affected a large portion of you, with 65% voting yes, while 31% of you said no. It seems like, if anything, based on some of the comments that I was reading, it does seem like that there is this wait-and-see approach for $70 games, unless it's a game that you're just super excited about. That's one of the things that we have seen this generation, though. Despite the $10 increase, these games are still selling very well. Look no further than Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which we talked about a little bit ago. It is now the fastest selling exclusive of all time at $70, tied with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Sony's also had a lot of success with this price tag as well. Now, with that said, that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't affect other games, though. There might be more of a hesitance with games like the upcoming Skull and Bones, as an example. Now, I mean, to be fair, I think that that game already has some pretty major questions as is. I don't think it looks good. But under that $70 price tag, I definitely don't think it looks good. And I'm sure a lot of people will skip out on that one. Let's also just go ahead and hypothetically say the next Sonic game is $70. That, you know, this is a more popular IP, but I could see some people question that $70 price tag a little bit. So while it doesn't necessarily hurt every game per se, there might be a little bit more hesitance for $70 games, which is exactly why I think that it's all the more important that publishers vet each game properly. Some games, yes, can get away with that $70 price tag. We've seen it happen. But others might be better suited for $60 or sometimes even less. Perception of each individual game is key here. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.